Kaki. Old age is similar to childhood in many ways. Old Kaki was like a child. For the most part of the day, she would lie down. Frail and hard of hearing, she had lost all her interest in life except her craving for food. If she did not get her meal at the appointed time, she would begin wailing. Kaki had no one except her nephew, Budhiram, to depend upon and had given him all her property. He, in turn, had promised to look after her. Budhiram was gentle in nature, as long as his pocket remained untouched. He knew that he was able to wear a cloak of respectability only because of the property that Kaki had given him. He sometimes regretted his cruel behavior, but the very thought of incurring any additional expense suppressed his good intentions. His wife, Rupa, was sharp-tongued, but she was God-fearing. Budhiram's sons were also rude to Kaki and teased her for fun. In the entire family, it was only Budhiram's little daughter Ladli who cared for Kaki. When her brothers teased her, Ladli ran to Kaki. This meant that she had to give a part of her food to Kaki, but she did not mind. One evening, the house was filled with the sound of the Shehnai. Budhiram's son, Sukhram, was getting engaged. Women were singing in the house. Guests were relaxing and eating to their heart's content. Rupa was busy supervising the preparation of food for the guests. Big kadhais were placed on open-air fireplaces. Puris, kachoris and spicy curries were being cooked. The aroma of ghee and spices was in the air. Kaki was sitting in her dark room. The aroma of food made her uneasy. She was wondering whether she would get her share of the puris. It was so late. No one had brought her any food. It seemed to her that everyone had eaten and there was nothing left for her. She wanted to cry, but fearing that this would be inauspicious, she controlled herself. The fragrance of ghee and spices made her mouth water. If only she could take one puri in her hands and feel it. Kaki made up her mind to go and watch the puris being fried. Crouching on her hands and feet, Kaki slowly crossed the threshold and crept close to the kadhai and sat down. Rupa was almost run off her feet, now in this room, now in that, now near the cooking area, then in the store. She was running in every direction, getting irritated, yet attending to everything. It was in this state of mind that she saw Kaki sitting beside the kadhai. She was furious and reprimanded the old woman. "Shame on you," she shouted at Kaki. "Why couldn't you sit in your room? The guests haven't eaten yet. No offering has been made to God and you couldn't wait. Go back to your room. You will eat when the family eats. You are not a goddess who should be fed before all others." Kaki neither spoke nor cried. Quietly she crept back to her room. The feast was ready. Leaf plates were laid on the floor. The guests began to eat. Kaki sat in her room, regretting her hasty behavior. She was not angry with Rupa. How could family members eat before the guests had eaten? She decided that she wouldn't go until she was called. The old woman hummed as she waited to be called. She thought of all the food awaiting her and felt that she had been singing for too long. She couldn't hear a sound. Why had no one called her? Kaki wondered. She strode into the courtyard. The guests were still seated, licking their fingers and enjoying the meal. They were shocked to see the old lady. Budhiram noticed her and became red with embarrassment. He caught hold of Kaki and pulled her back into her gloomy room. The guests had eaten. The family had eaten. The help had their meal. But no one thought of Kaki. Only little Ladli felt both sorrow and surprise at her parents' behavior. Why hadn't they fed Kaki? Why hadn't Kaki been allowed to eat before the guests had been served? Ladli had hidden her share of puris in a basket for Kaki. It was 11 in the night. Rupa was fast asleep in the courtyard. Ladli had been unable to sleep. The basket which hid the puris lay by her side. When she was convinced that her mother was fast asleep, she picked up her basket and walked towards Kaki's room. Kaki lay in her room. She realized that everyone had gone to sleep after eating. Her stomach was churning with hunger. Her heart was filled with anguish. All of a sudden, she heard a voice. "Get up, Kaki. I have brought puris for you." Kaki recognized Ladli's voice. She was delighted when Ladli gave her the puris. "Has your mother sent these?" Kaki asked. "No, this is my share." Kaki pounced upon the puris. When Kaki had finished the puris, Ladli asked, "Kaki, have you had your fill?" Just a light shower often makes the heat worse. The few puris had merely whet Kaki's craving, and she said, "No, my daughter. Go to your mother and bring some more." Ladli said, "She's asleep. If I wake her, she will be most annoyed." "Take me to the place where the guests were eating," she told Ladli. Ladli took Kaki by the hand and led her to the dining area. Kaki began to devour the leftovers from the leaf plates lying scattered all over. Just then, Rupa woke up. She did not find Ladli by her side. She looked around and saw Ladli standing beside the used leaf plates. Then, to her horror, she saw Kaki picking crumbs from the leftover and eating them. Rupa was stunned and ashamed. She lifted her hands towards heaven and prayed for mercy. "How cruel I have been! Today was my son's engagement. Hundreds of people feasted, but I could not feed an old helpless woman." Rupa lit a lamp and went into her storeroom. She piled a tray with food and took it to Kaki. "Kaki, come and eat," she said to her with tears in her eyes. "I have committed a great blunder today. Forgive me." It was already midnight. The sky was filled with stars. Just as innocent children forget a rebuke after receiving a gift of sweets, Kaki ate, forgetting everything. Good wishes flowed from Kaki, and Rupa delighted at the sight of her relishing the meal.